All right, that was the opening track to a new record, just came out recently, by Dion, and it's called Castle. It's available on Brassland Records, and I'm super happy to have Dion here, also known as Aron Sanchez, who is half of Buke and Gase, one of my favorite bands. So, Aron, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So this album, man, I put it on and I had no idea what to expect. So just track one, it was a totally fresh experience. Alec from Brassland said, hey, Aron has a new thing out. It's more of electronic music kind of stuff. So I put it on and I was like, what on earth is this? I don't think I've ever heard, was that Santa Ana? Is that in 9/8 or something like that?
Oh, you know what?
I think it's 5/4.
Yeah. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's no electronic music
probably
like
a
that.
6/4 or something like that.
Yeah, so tell us about like even software-wise. I know process is just kind of like the boring part of all of this and not why anyone does it, but like there's not a lot of electronic music in alternate time signatures. So tell me about your exploration of time and sound with this record.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, it ended up being more of a 4/4 record, but it started out as a process of me getting back into electronic music because early on in my musical career explorations, I was more into that kind of stuff, making beats and electronic sounds and stuff, before I started performing more on guitar-like instruments. But I don't know, I just wanted to like kind of get back into that, but then bring some of my interests that I've, explored in Buke and Gase, where we often are not doing 4/4, into this kind of like beat making electronic realm. And it's stuff I haven't heard a lot. So yeah, I just wanted to, what does it sound like to use to go 9/8 or 5/4, but still try to make like kind of a dance beat or something that like is using modern sounds in these ways. Um, so yeah, that was one. That's one like arc to this project. Um, the other is just me like really getting into process and exploring using Ableton to like create music and in ways that we weren't doing in my bands before.
Yeah, it seems like at least with Scholars, the Buke and Gase record, which I told you before we started, I still listen to probably more often than any other record in my collection. It seems like with that
But
album, you guys shifted into a more electronic direction. And I watched a concert of you guys performing in I think it was a radio station for a radio show. And you, most of the time, you were playing the Ableton grid,
right, oh, the pad
the
thing.
pad thing.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was using the pad in conjunction with like a drum trigger pad as well.
Right. Yeah. You had a
Um,
drumstick in one hand, and then you were hitting the
right,
other
it's like
pads.
playing buttons with a hand and stick. I don't know. It was just like, yes, we got more into electronic stuff. This was also like part of my beginnings explorations of like also wanting to just shift where the band was going and not get so locked into our instruments, which is our band name as well. We felt like, okay, we've done everything we can do with that. Let's keep challenging ourselves. So we brought in other elements, and electronics was what was interesting to us. Um, Also, it aided us to create bigger and more sounds because we're only two people. So how do we like continue performing as two people but have control over more sounds? So um and then yeah, it was like, can I put the Gase down and like do something else? And that was, you know, I can stand up now and not be seated and like play like a drummer a little bit or something like that. So it's just like exploring those different approaches performance wise.
On this album, I believe in an interview with, there's a good interview with you by Josh Quillen. That's his name, right?
Yeah,
Okay, from So
from
Percussion.
stuff production. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned the entire album is in the box, like it's in the computer. You're not actually performing anything live. Is that the case with this?
Wait, the sub percussion record?
No, no, no. This a DN
No.
Res record.
Oh, the DN Res is totally in the box. Yes,
Hmm.
everything.
Was that? I mean, do you ever compose that way? Is that a normal thing for you? Was this sort of out of the box for you?
It was out of the box, in the box. um, let's see. I don't find it. It's not foreign to me. I've done it in the past. I feel like even I started using Ableton, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, and immediately started incorporating it in Buke and Gase in some like songwriting capacity. So we would come up with demos and different things, and I would pull things out of our improv sessions, put them into Ableton, and then continue to maybe add some melodies or different things. Um, so I was pretty familiar with that process, but this was the first time I was like, okay, I'm going to make a create an entire music that's you know, only fabricated on the screen. It's just me and the screen kind of thing. Um,
I'm not
and I
very.
enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I enjoy that process. I enjoy the amount of control, which is also different from past projects, Buke and Gase, where it's like very much about the duo, the two of us, me and Aaron, our interaction and improvising.
So for me, I'm not like a huge connoisseur of electronic music. I enjoy it when I hear it. I know there's a lot of innovation, but when I heard this album, it just seemed really out of left field. Would you say that this is? are you like leaning on any particular influences, or were you really pushing the boundaries? Because I like, for me, it was really shocking to hear some of the sounds and the odd melodies that you were going for. But perhaps to you, it was like kind of the norm. So maybe you could provide some context for people like me who are not electronic music regulars.
Hmm. Um, I don't know, and I wouldn't say I'm an electronic music regular either. It's not. It's not that I listen to a lot of instrumental electronic music. I have lately. I've been getting really a lot more into house and techno, um, and just the history of that um, is interesting, and kind of like trying to bring that back in. Um, I don't know, just kind of using the tools and sonic palette of a lot of hip hop, but trying to like push that by changing the time signature or like using weird sounds, different kinds of melodies, um, different kinds of rhythms on top of it. Um, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Are other people having this like a similar experience listening to this record? Have you gotten any feedback where people are like, "Wow, that was pretty surprising"?
Um, I don't know, like coming from me, like surprising that I'm doing it,
Right. Yeah.
or surprising in general.
I think in
Uh,
general.
I've gotten some really good responses. People dig it. Um, yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know how, like, I'm still like absorbing or becoming aware of how it sits with the world, you know.
Right.
But I've been getting good responses.
Do you get, or do you have plans to really pursue this? I know DN Res is kind of marketed as like an alternate, maybe personality or a representation of yourself or something like that. Do you plan to go further and deeper into if in this direction?
Yes, I think so. I'd like to continue doing it. It really just came out of, like I was saying before, a practice. Well, it was me getting back into electronic music, but then like trying to create music every day. So I just amassed a huge folder of music, and these are like the ones that I picked out to like, you know, make a compilation or an album that represents it. And then it needed a name, so I came up with a name. But I really enjoyed doing it. So yes, I will continue.
So thinking about, we're talking a lot publicly, like in society, about artificial intelligence and generative music and that kind of thing. Um, I I've used a lot of these AI tools, and I've seen like AI music generating tools as well coming out. One thing I really appreciate about your sort of sound textures, it's usually like a blend. Like there's a, I think in this next track, um, Queer Nights, I think the kick drum has a cricket sound, and there's another sound played at the same time. You're mixing a lot of textures and kind of pulling from different sources, but it's almost like because there's no physical instrument, in a sense, there's a part of me that's like it likens the AI, like this thing doesn't actually exist and it's completely in the computer thing with the human brain element and mixing things, and sometimes you get results that are just completely unexpected. Uh, I don't even know how to approach the composition of this kind of music. So to me, it seems just very is very foreign and very new, and I really appreciate it. But I don't know. Respond to any of that.
um, I'm always recording things on my phone when I'm out in the world. So I amass these like folders of found sounds, um, and I just keep that folder is like on the side as I'm working, and I just pull stuff. So like the crickets might end up in there, like, and then I figure out a way to like have it be only when it's with the kick drum, things like that. It's like my process is very improvisational in the box. Like when I sit down, there's a blank slate, and I just start throwing stuff at it. And maybe some of these field recordings, influence or dictate where a track is going to go.
Right. Well, I really love this album, and this next track was, again, kind of like a real surprise to me. Some very strange note choices and interesting rhythms and textural palette. Anything you want to say about Queer Nights before we listen to it?
Um, I don't know. I don't remember making it. I don't remember what happened. I remember like looking through the folders and be like, "Oh, this one's good," and then I think I further developed it. But I also like filmed. I made little videos to go along with a lot of these tracks, and this one was some video from a party I went to, and that influenced the title. So they kind of like work together.
I did watch the video and I planned on showing it, but it's a minute long, and I wanted people to get more of a sense of the music. But there is a playlist which I'll share in the live chat where people can check out those video clips. But you say, I mean, some of the footage is kind of wild. Like, what was going on at this party? I saw money getting thrown around and piles of bodies. What is happening?
Yeah, I'll leave that to the viewer.
Okay. All right, let's take a listen.
You can interpret that how you like.
All right, so tell us a little of what's going on in this. Like, just rhythmically, it's kind of jumpy and stunted. Like, what were you going for with that track?
Um, I think I was attracted to the bass kick rhythm that's going on. That boom, 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 boom. Um, and then I think I just built around it. I just I kind of respond to what's been built, so I just kind of like go along. So it's very kind of linear process where I create a thing and then like, oh, maybe it's been enough time for this section. What can I do to like shift it or change it or like go here or go to a different place or like drop out. It's just a very organic, you know, I I'm not thinking too hard about it. It's just more like what I feel is gonna work. Um, it's a strange track. Yeah. Uh,
Is it a sort of a conversation with yourself? Like, I know when I'm writing words, which is what I do for a living, I am just constantly like looking at the previous paragraphs and okay, where can this go? What's the story? You know, how can I go through this? But I know that your songs are like inspired by real events that you've encountered and found sounds and textures and that kind of thing. Like, what is the conversation you're having with yourself as you're going through this?
Interesting question. Um, hmm. I think I'm kind of I try to be objective. I try to be the audience a little bit as I'm creating it. So I'm trying to create what I think would be satisfying to happen at any given moment for me. um, and yeah, I think that's the conversation is just what do I want to happen here? What do I think needs? What does this need right now?
Yeah, that's very cool. So, we have a question from Rotary Dialer, and it is, Aaron, did you use the software you wrote for Buke and Gase improv/ideation for this project as well?
No, I did not. I used there's a number of things that I've made. So the software I use for Buke and Gase I made in Max MSP. Maybe some people know what that is. Um, and I've written other little, plug-in type things that I use in Ableton software as well. But no, that specific one that's very geared towards Buke and Gase and kind of it uses our pedals and like all of our hardware. Um, it controls all of that stuff. So in this project, I'm not that Pelican case with all that stuff is not in the room for this project.
Maybe you could share some artists that inspire you. Like somebody, Kango26 says, this kind of reminds me of some Flying Lotus. You know, who are some of the artists that you listen to and feel inspired by in this realm? Or perhaps other realms that still inspire you to make this music?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Flying Lotus, Aphex Twin, Autechre, um, who else? Listening to a lot of hip hop producers. I'm drawing blank now.
No problem.
Yeah,
Now, what
but
about
lately I've been definitely going back and listening to a lot of uh, kind of like late '80s, early '90s techno. So I think my newer stuff is going to lean more towards that a little bit. We'll see.
very cool? Um, so, in terms of like Buke and Gase, I think most people know you from that band. How I don't know how inseparable the projects are, you know, given you are such a key component in Dion Rez and Buke and Gase. But do you see this as sort of like a fork, or you know, like in software where somebody takes something and then they start going in their own direction with it? Do you see it as like a sort of a new island that you're making? Like, how do you envision a project like this, and how much influence do you take from the work that you've done with Buke and Gase and those expectations that the listener might have?
Hmm. Um, this feels like an island a bit, but it's also an island that Buke and Gase was starting to like move towards, or live on a little bit. And some of the things that Aron and I have been working on have been heavily in Ableton, actually. And actually, the next record EP that we have coming out is definitely more electronic. So I don't know. I think it's the island that I'm living on a little bit in terms of like how I'm approaching music personally. It's definitely influencing Buke and Gase. I think Buke and Gase's process is always influencing how I'm working because we've been doing it for so long and it's so interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. All right, so you have the Scholars Alliance, which is a way for people to support you and Aron and the work that you do. I just want people to know about it. You can support Aron and Aron and their independent projects through this Scholars Alliance, which is available on Bandcamp. Anything you'd like to share about that, or do you want me to do the promotional stuff about it?
You can, if you have like the detailed things to promote about it. But yeah, it's. I mean, people should join. We're always like offering things, items, as part of the subscription. There's music that we give out. Could be T-shirts or records and things like that. Things that you can't find otherwise.
Yeah, and Alec from Brassland is in the live chat. He's telling us the cost is $30 to $80 annually. You get the entire discography as high-res downloads, and I believe that includes Dion Res, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, and you get at least one physical thing your first year: vinyl, CDs, and T-shirts, as you mentioned. So yeah, I really encourage people to check out Scholars Alliance. We are, Alec is confirming, yes, it does include Dion Res. So we are big fans of supporting artists and shining a light on the work that they do. And I just have to say personally, your work and in Buke and Gase is just, to me, some of the most exciting and innovating music that comes across, my inbox. I'm not super special. I'm not some sort of influencer or anything. I'm just a guy with a spotlight that says, hey, this is cool. Go check this out. So I really appreciate you being ambitious and taking chances with music and doing new and interesting things.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So there's a link on the listening screen, and there's a link down here, brassland.ffm.to/castle. That's the link where people can go and listen to this album. It's on the streaming platforms, and then you can also purchase it. And then you can follow Aron on Instagram. He is this Polyphonic Workshop. That's the spelling right there, Polyphonic Workshop, all normal spelling. Follow him on Instagram, and yeah, that should be it. So thank you, everyone, for showing up for the live stream, asking questions, and enjoying this work. And Aron, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Anything you can share about this last track we're going to listen to, Kuyo?
This one features Aron on vocals, but she didn't actually perform it. It's all manipulated in the computer. Yeah. Sometimes I have a folder of Buke and Gase recordings, and I'll just like pull stuff. So I'll pull her vocal, chop it up, do different things. So that's what's featured as the melody line for this.
Right on. And again, thank you to everyone who's made it this far and listened, and I hope you enjoy this closing track.
I'll